once again, we are here, the Closed Fist here in Albion, New York for Fairground Fallout. This is Buck Gunderson.
Hello, hello.
Independent wrestling traveler, we'll say. Tell us some of your story about some of the travels, because you are from up north.
Yes, from Toronto, Canada.
Toronto, Canada. Now you are in the truest sense of the word, the weekend warrior.
I suppose that term might be appropriate.
Give us some of the story about what you go through in like a weekend.
Okay, so a typical weekend for me of traveling to the United States might start off on a Friday. All right, there not a lot of promotions run on Fridays, but in Pennsylvania, which is where I wrestle quite a bit these days, you've got the Sanctuary there. But they call themselves professional stunt fighting to get around the commission, right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
So they run their shows Friday there. So Friday night, boom, we're wrestling at the Sanctuary. Then we'll stay overnight there and head to our next show in Sellersville, Pennsylvania, from Hazleton with the Sanctuary to Excellence Professional Wrestling. Then we'll head back to the Sanctuary, an hour to Sellersville, an hour to the Sanctuary, because we'll stay overnight there. And
thriving metropolis, I would imagine.
Hazleton, absolutely. And then from there, Sunday, on our way back, we'll try and pick up another show. Sometimes just me alone, sometimes a whole carload. And yeah, that's the life of branching out to the United States.
Oh my goodness! Now you worked for. Now we talked briefly before we did this interview. You worked for Smash. You worked for some of the promotions up in Toronto and whatnot. What is some of the biggest differences from wrestling up north to here down in the U.S.?
Yeah, probably the vast majority of promotions in Toronto, I've had at least a stint or match with. And as far as differences, I would say there's a lot more wrestling in the United States, although there is quite a bit in especially Southern Ontario area. There's a lot more in the U.S. and there's actually a lot more similarities than differences that I've noticed.
Nice. Who were some of your influences growing up?
My influences would have to be Mick Foley, Bob Backlund, and Owen Hart.
Bob Backlund. Now that's a name you don't hear with somebody your age.
Right.
And whatnot. Right. What made Bob Backlund such an influence?
Bob Backlund was the reason I started watching wrestling religiously, if that's the appropriate word. Once I saw him, and he was locking people in the chicken wing every week, and he was going crazy. That's when I just flipped the channel, because I had always watched wrestling casually. That's when I said I have to see every episode of this from now on.
Right. Where do you hope to go from here? I mean, what is the end goal?
Right. Well, as I said, wrestling in Ontario for a number of years, it just became a situation where I was wrestling familiar faces, almost every week, and people I was glad to see, but I felt like I wasn't achieving anything more. So branching out to the U.S. and just branching out even more, as I did last summer when I spent the summer in Japan with Taka Michinoku's promotion, and just continuing more and more broader and broader range of travel and wrestling all over.
Now, what was it like in Japan?
Japan was living the life of a professional wrestler from Monday to Sunday, every day, more than anything I've experienced personally in North America. I showed up at the dojo without even having corresponded with them in advance. I just rolled the dice and showed up, and thankfully, because of a recommendation letter that was written by my coach Yuki Ishikawa, they ended up welcoming me with open arms, although that wasn't the case when I first arrived at the doors there.
Wow. Well, it's okay. Well, they're really getting the setup going here.
One more time. Sure.
And like that. Well, I want to thank you for your time and best of luck in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much.